Emma stood in front of the mirror, carefully adjusting her hair. Her hands trembled slightly, but she took a deep breath to steady herself. "I'll be home late tonight," she called out, grabbing her coat from the chair by the door. Adam, her husband, looked up from his laptop, his brow furrowed. "Another late meeting?" he asked, trying to sound casual. "Yeah," Emma replied without meeting his gaze. "This project is really demanding." Adam nodded, but the unease that had been growing in him for weeks deepened. Emma had become distant lately. She smiled less, laughed differently, and her phone was now an extension of her hand, never left unattended. As the door clicked shut behind her, Adam leaned back, staring at the empty space she left behind. Something wasn't right, and he couldn't ignore it any longer. The next evening, Adam was fixing a broken cabinet in the living room when a sharp knock startled him. He wasn't expecting anyone. Wiping his hands on a rag, he opened the door to find a tall man standing there, his smile a little too easy, a little too practiced. "Hi," the stranger said. "I'm Mark, Emma's coworker. She left her scarf in my car last night. Thought I'd drop it off." Adam's stomach churned at the sight of the familiar scarf dangling from Mark's hand. "Her scarf?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "In your cars?" Mark's smile faltered for a moment before he recovered. "Oh, it must have slipped off during the drive back. We worked late, and I gave her a ride home. Team bonding, you know?" Adam forced a polite nod and took the scarf. "Thanks. I'll give it to her." As Mark walked away, Adam stood frozen in the doorway. His mind raced with questions, each more unsettling than the last. That night, Adam couldn't sleep. His thoughts swirled with doubt and suspicion. Emma's phone, always locked and tucked away, was charging on the kitchen counter. He walked over and picked it up, hesitating for a moment before trying her passcode. It didn't work. He tried again and failed. The following day, unable to shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong, Adam decided to take matters into his own hands. He drove to Emma's office but parked a block away, staying out of sight. Around 7 p.m., he watched as Emma left the building, laughing with none other than Mark. They didn't head to the parking lot but walked instead to a nearby bar. Adam's chest tightened as he saw them slip into a dimly lit booth, their heads close together, their laughter muted but intimate. Over the next few days, Adam's suspicions were confirmed. He followed Emma discreetly, documenting every interaction she had with Mark. The stolen glances, the lingering touches, the way her face lit up in his presence, it was all too much to bear. The final blow came one night when he watched her climb into Mark's car and drive to a secluded cabin on the edge of the city. Through the windows, Adam saw their silhouettes moving together, closer than coworkers should ever be. When Emma returned home that night, her cheeks were flushed, and she carried the scent of another world with her. Adam was waiting for her in the living room, her scarf draped over his lap. "Late meeting again?" he asked, his voice calm but cold. Emma froze, her eyes darting to the scarf. "Yes," she stammered. "Why are you up?" "I know about Mark," Adam said, his voice steady, his gaze piercing. "The late nights. The cabin. I've seen everything." Her face turned ashen, and tears welled in her eyes. "Adam, I'm so sorry," she whispered, her voice cracking. "It wasn't supposed to be like this. Mark made me feel alive again. I didn't mean to hurt you." Adam stood, his fists clenched at his sides. "And what about us? Was that not enough for you?" Emma fell to her knees, sobbing. She pleaded for forgiveness, swearing it was a mistake, but Adam's trust was shattered. He gave her an ultimatum: end the affair immediately and seek counseling with him, or walk out the door and never return. That night, Emma called Mark and ended things, but the damage to her marriage was done. Adam struggled to look at her the same way, the image of her with another man etched into his mind. He tried to move forward, but the shadows of betrayal lingered. Weeks later, Adam received an anonymous text. "Emma didn't tell you the whole truth. Ask her about the lake house in May." His blood ran cold as he read the message. Confronting Emma again, he mentioned the text. Her face turned pale, and she stammered out denials, but her trembling hands betrayed her. Fueled by suspicion, Adam hired a private investigator. What he uncovered unraveled everything. Mark wasn't Emma's first indiscretion, and the lake house wasn't just a retreat. It was a meeting place for secrets she had buried for years. As Adam stood on the precipice of their broken life, he faced a choice: to confront the entirety of Emma's betrayal or to walk away forever.